Well, first you got to learn Hebrew. You got to learn Hebrew. This is why we say it's important to learn the language, to study. Let's go to the scripture. You hear, if you listen to us, you hear this scripture all the time. They went over it the other day. We always go over it. Hebrews. Go to Hebrews 5 verse 12. We gotta study. We gotta study the Hebrew. So you need the basics. There's some people that say, "Oh, we don't need the Hebrew." That's BS. You need the Hebrew to understand. If you don't study, you don't get in there and know the basics, you don't know words, then you're going to be thrown off with a lot of words. Like, we know what the word God means because we know Hebrew. We know the translation of that Genesis 1. We know the translation of John 1. We understand that from a Hebrew mind. So you're right. A lot of brothers and sisters don't know it. Now I've studied Hebrew. Am I fluent? No, but I can speak to you in Hebrew. So, and most of all, I understand a lot of words that that are written in here. So it's always good to have. I don't got it on me tonight. I got four good books. I got the. You got to have your concordance, okay? Because those break down the Hebrew words. A Ben Yehudi, those are Hebrew word definitions. Then you got to have. I got a book called the Theological Word Book. That breaks down the Hebrew. I did a show called Ahaya Deception, showing that the reason why brothers come up with Ahaya is because they don't understand the Hebrew context. They don't understand that the angel was speaking for the Most High, not the Most High himself. So, and really to me it was basic, because if you understand, even from an English perspective, if somebody is speaking in the name for somebody, right, or in third person, you're not going to talk as though if that person, if the other person that sent the person is speaking. You're not going to do that. So that's what Exodus was about the angel speaking in the presence or speaking for the Most High. So the proper way, you wouldn't say Ahaya, Ashar Ahaya. The proper way would be Yahweh, right? Because when speaking of the Most High, when we pray, do we want to say I be? Because then we're talking to who? Ourselves, right? We would say He be. See, but the question is powerful and it's correct, because you don't know Hebrew and you didn't study. I remember the brother that came to me with the Ahaya thing, because he was a cat coming to our school before he went to GOCC, and it took him a week to already in his mind say, "Oh yeah, it is Ahaya. Y'all wrong," because he never studied. And he came to me with it. He came to me the book. He said, "Look, it says Ahaya, Ashar Ahaya in the Hebrew." And I said, "Okay, yeah, it does." Khan. I said, "Okay, yeah, I'll get to it." Because in my head it's like, okay, I already know what this is, and I already know what he was dealing with, right? So it took him a week. He didn't even study. How is it going to take you a week to so-called study when you never studied Hebrew? What it was is he already said in his mind he wanted to believe that, because he didn't know Hebrew. So it's easy to convince somebody of something that when they don't know it. That's why it says the simple believeth every word. but the wise look it well to his goings. Right? Then he said, be no longer children tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine. Right? So you get that. You get brothers that come in. And I say that I knew where he was at because he was looking for he was meddling with every other thing anyway. So if you're meddling with every other thing anyway, you're looking for a way out. I already knew what was going on. But anyway, he came back. He was like, yeah, you know, the Ahaya thing, this is what it is. And that's why I did that class to show even the brothers, the head of GOCC, he was taught by the elders. And they knew, we got brothers that know Hebrew. I'm talking about wrote the Bible in Hebrew. Right? Where did you get this from, bro? Like, I'm talking about brothers that are fluent Assyrian, can blow your brain out of the box in House of David. The brother that wrote the Bible in ancient Hebrew, he's fluent. But my thing was this: why didn't you go to them? Why did you already assume that this what it was? But what it was is he didn't study. So that's why I said this is a perfect question. A lot of brothers get in there. What's another word they got mixed up on? They're getting mixed up on the color purple, is it?
Purple and blue?
Yeah, purple and blue. The Hebrew word for purple and blue, it's like they're going to the concordance, but they're only going to one source and they're reading the concordance wrong. Right? And that's what you see what they did with Ahaya or Yahweh. They tried to make one word, because it had the same letters in it, mean the same thing as another word. And it's like, bro, that don't mean that. You're using that. First of all, that's a whole different word. But it's because brothers don't know Hebrew. So you're right. That's why a lot of people don't respect it, because they're like, you ain't really studied. Now, let's bring it back to this whole question is, it's not like that with Hebrew only. It's like that with everything. Every Hebrew Israelite now, if they can flip to Job 30:30, they figure I'm a scholar. They can flip to Revelation 1:13 and like, I got it. I'm good. I'm going to be a teacher. It took years to sit down and really know the history, really know the precepts, how to link them up. That's why brothers be hooking precepts up wrong. They be taking chapters that's not even in the context of what you're talking. It's like Christianity. They're taking chapters and Bible verses and not going into context of what Paul is saying, and they're breaking it down wrong. Right? Like the Cornelius, right? See, you can eat everything. It wasn't even talking about food. What are you talking about? It was a vision that had to do with Cornelius. But what they're doing is because they don't know the Bible, they don't know how to read the Bible, they're correlating that with what they want, which is to eat everything. Right? That's the problem. So when you deal with it's not only the Hebrew, it's everything. Everything is microwave, everything is, bro, I didn't start reading any outside book to 10, 12 years into the truth. You know why? Because I wanted to get this. I got this. And that's why nobody is able to pull the fast one on me. Whether it was, I told y'all the story the other day about the Immaculate Conception. Brothers try to push. I was like, nah, I know the scriptures. So, you're right. Read that.
Hebrews chapter 5, verse 12.
Go ahead.
For when for the time ye ought to be teachers.
Right.
Ye have need that one teach you again.
Right. So, to answer your question, and it's kind of a question statement you made, the statement is correct. A lot of the respect is not given because you just anoint yourself the teacher because you watch classes online. You could still be selling drugs. You got brothers smoking cigarettes. You got brothers smoking weed. You got brothers still beating their rib, and then they just like, I don't want to go deal with nobody. So what do? I'm going to start my own YouTube channel Forget the process.
Con.
I'm gonna start my own YouTube channel and I'm gonna teach. Because, I mean, if he can do it, I can do it. But really? Is that what the Most High said? And the scripture said when you ought to be teachers, you had need of what?
Need that one teach you again.
You had need somebody teach you. So yeah, somebody got to sit down and you got to learn the Hebrew. You got to learn the Hebrew. You got to learn these scriptures. You got to learn. And like I said, and I always say is that nowadays you got to know who you're learning from. It's harder now. Because now you get online and you didn't know that this guy really didn't know. But he sounded good. He really wasn't changing. You know what I mean? He really wasn't putting out the spirit, but he sound good. And all you did was sit there and eat all that up. And that's what you got now. But you ask him, hey, how long you been studying? Who taught you? Oh, I learned from online. That's good. Everybody learns from online, right? But eventually you have to go sit in wherever, pick and choose one and sit down and really learn. You see that? Because it's different from learning things online and sitting there in class and learning and going afterward like the apostles did Christ after class and say, hey, you said this. Let me ask you this. You see that? So it's different. And then also you add the actions to that. So there's essential elements in there that need every Hebrew Israelite need. They need that. See, or else it's just going to be like Christianity. Whoo, I went to class online and what? I'm righteous within myself. But that's why you see they still got issues. Now, a lot of men don't, and a lot of women don't want to admit them. They say, no, I'm a Hebrew. I'm a Hebrew, but you still beating your rib. You still beating on your husband. You still smoking cigarettes. You still smoking weed on the low. Right? You're not letting nobody work that out of you. The process of change is not really happening. Yeah, you sound good. Right? You sound strong. Yeah, you got your beard, you got your head wrap. But really, are you changing to be a Hebrew? Nah, you're not. So it's a process. Go ahead.
Which be the principles, the first principles of the oracles of God.
That's the point. The first principles are to sit down and have someone teach you. Everybody has to be taught, right? So, going back to the point of the Hebrew, you got to learn this. You got to learn the basics. You got to learn the modern Hebrew. And we teach the modern Hebrew, and we also teach the ancient Hebrew. You see that? So, have y'all seen the soldier's test? Right. What are you learning on there?
The alphabet.
You're learning modern and ancient Hebrew. So you're learning what was written on the Moabite stone in 4 BC, right? And you're learning the modern Hebrew. After we had to hide our knowledge, we had to come up with another writing. So you see that Assyrian writing, which was brought about during the Syrian Empire. That's why we say Assyrian writing, because it was during that empire. But that's Hebrew. You see that? So you're learning both of them. You see the importance of being a scholar ain't just, oh, who are you? You're a scholar. You know what I mean? Oh, and you're a scholar. It don't work like that. You know what I mean? We always use that analogy to try to bring the common sense of it. That you can't just do that. I mean, you can, but look what the outcome is. You be saying the wrong thing. Brothers don't know. It's like I watched class the other day, and Quatzazop was asked about Valentine's. And what brothers start doing in the background? Well, yeah, Valentine. But then you really sit down with those brothers and ask them, so you did research? No. Brothers, I didn't know who it was, but I heard in the background somebody yelling out, and Quatzazop said, well, hold on a second. I got to do the research on this. That's how we're taught here. We're not taught just because you're Hebrew now, you got the knowledge on everything. The truth is, no, you don't. You got to study. But that's what's happening online What's going on online? They just start blurting out stuff. Oh yeah, I read over here. You read this from this side or that side, but did you really research this? And how long does it take you to research? Oh, that took me a whole 4 hours, and I became a scholar on the subject. Like these subjects, these topics, man, they take you months of real studying. If not, some take you years. But the problem is that everybody don't care about that. They want to sound good, sound-wise for this vainglory. So we got to watch that. If you don't know it, you don't know. The scriptures say put your hand over your mouth. And that's what I tell the men here. If you don't know a question, man, put them on hold, tell them we'll get back to them. Why? Because we got to get them the right information instead of running our mouth on something you don't know. You see that? It's very important. So, the Hebrew, back to the point, you need to study it, you need to get the basics, and you need to learn it. You learn the writing, you learn all these things so you can start reading what is on the Moabite stone. And you can read that yourself. Ancient scholars learn that language. You see that? That's what you're learning here. The modern Hebrew, anybody can get that. Right? But that ancient Hebrew, not everybody has that. Okay, go from there, go to 2 Timothy 2:15. So whatever it is, man, whatever it is, this is applicable. Hebrews 5 and 12, 2 Timothy 2:15 is applicable. Anything you're learning in the scriptures, you gotta really know that you know that you know that you know. If somebody can come back and throw doubt in your mind, then you don't know it. And you never knew it. Because you really didn't study everything. You really didn't, come up with, the doubts already. And say, well, you didn't fall into this, you fall into this area and say, wait a minute, well, why does that say that? Well, let me look at this. Let me look that word up. A lot of brothers ain't doing that no more. You ain't getting books outside of books and books and books. You're just going off of what it says on Google. Shit. You can't do that. You can't just everything. You can't Google everything. You know what I mean? If you do, you got to make sure you have the information from other sources. We were always taught 2 or 3 sources. So have 2 or 3 sources. So when I went into that Ahaya, I went into the word he be, right? He be or Hawa. I went into that, and I went into the theological word book. I went into there's another book, it's a blue one. I forgot the name of it. It's another one. Then I went into I went to like almost 4 books. Just to show you that, look, this is all common. Like this word is a compiling from this word. But, we're not trained nowadays to do that. Now, I'm not saying that. I think you can get that theological word book on your phone also. I'm not saying that you can't use those. I'm saying that you gotta study. That's what the scriptures say. Go ahead. Can I get a little water? Go ahead and read that. 2 Timothy 2 and 15.
2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 15.
Yeah.
Study to show thyself approved unto the Most High.
Right. So, whoever made the statement, you're right. You gotta study to show yourself approved to the Most High, and that you do know. And how are you approved of the Most High? Let's see who got this one. We read this all the time, but do y'all understand it? How are you approved to the Most High? What does the Most High look at a man? What does the Most High look at a man or a woman and say, oh, they're approved? What is it? What?
Their application.
There it is. You're not approved because you know how to say it or speak it. The Most High, in His eyes, He's looking at your actions. The Most High says your actions are weighed. He says, my little children, let us not love in tongue, neither in word, but in deed and in truth. So, studying, being approved to the Most High is through your actions. I know you're studied because your application is on point. Right? Not just because you can speak it, but because you can speak it and do it. So study to show yourself approved to the Most High. Go ahead.
a workman that needeth not to be ashamed.
Right. Well, where do you get ashamed at? You say things that ain't on point, and you ain't double check, right? And that doesn't mean somebody ain't gonna be able to refute it, because they're gonna deny it all anyway. But you've studied enough to where you know, and you have all the information and all the little loopholes that they try to get in on. You're able to go and say, "No, that's not true because look. No, that's not true because of look." You go right back to the word. You're studying to show yourself approved. Go ahead.
Rightly dividing the word of truth.
Now, this is what I was talking about earlier. Rightly dividing the word of truth. Right? Oh, that word God. Well, in Hebrew, do you know what that word God means? It don't always mean Yahweh. So, but you would have to know the Hebrew. You would have to understand and read some basics of Hebrew to know that don't always mean that. You got to understand the context this chapter is talking about. So, yeah, you got to study. All right? What else?
The same brother came back and asked, should we focus on studying Paleo Hebrew or another dialect?
Well, I said that. I answered that. You should obviously you got to do one at a time. But you see why it doesn't just take a good week to get this knowledge? But you got to, we study both. You know, like I said, when the brothers are giving their soldier's test, they're learning the modern Hebrew, and then they're learning the ancient Hebrew. So the writings, then it's up to them to go back and learn the dialect of the modern Hebrew, but they are taught the dialect of the ancient Hebrew. So you want to get it. You want to get it all. That way, you can understand also how they use certain words, because they use, bro. They got vowels. They got the A-E-I-O-U's and all that stuff in Hebrew, and the original Hebrew don't got all that. So you gotta. It's good to know at least a little of the modern, you know, a little of the ancient, the verbiage, the words, the context. You know, you're not gonna. I mean, I'm not saying you have to be a professional, but you're a Hebrew Israelite. You gotta at least know it.